All right, good stuff. Appreciate everybody being here. Pump, thanks for the super chat, brother. Good stuff there. Appreciate you checking in as always. All right, John, let's do this real quick finalization here of the coaching staff. All right. The offensive staff, is it officially done now, John? You got Sean Mannion as your offensive coordinator. You got Josh Grizzard as your pass game coordinator. You have Parks Frasier as your quarterbacks coach. You have Ryan Mahaffey as your tight ends coach and run game coordinator. You got Chris Kuper as your O-line coach. And you have the return of Jamal Singleton as your running backs coach and the return of Aaron Moorhead as your wide receivers coach. And the newest addition is Fred Hale as a strength and conditioning coach from Notre Dame. He's been added as the newest addition. And if I'm adding it up correctly, John, that is a full look at the Eagles' offensive coaching staff for the 2026 campaign.
Well, the position groups, there's some, quality control, offensive assistant guys, lower level that people don't think about. So it's not the full staff, but for what fans care about, the position coaches seem to be filled. But there's still some, I'm sure there'll be some title promotions. Montgomery Van Gorder, Eric Dickerson, one of the quality control guys. They might get bumps. Defensively, we still got to see what they do with Mike Pellegrino. That was sort of uncertain. Is he going to be the safeties coach? Last year they had a safeties coach, and he's got a history with slot. They've had a slot coach in the past, so they may change that. And then you have lower level guys. Tyler Yelk is leaving for Nebraska, so they'll have to replace him. So it's not 100% complete, but for the major position guys who are running rooms, that part of it is complete, and that's probably all the fans care about, to be honest.
Well, what do you think? What do you think of the big names? You're right, there's some more to fill in, but lesser positions. What do you think of the big positions? What do you think of the staff, John? What are your takeaways from the staff when you look at that? I think there's some trends there, but I'll let you elaborate. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, defensively, everything's pretty much fine. You lose Christian Parker, they elevate Joe Casper, you bring in Mike Pellegrino. Pretty much the same staff. Defensively, offensively is where all the change is. And it's pretty significant. I mean, you have 3 young guys who are like the ecosystem around Jalen Hurts. Sean Mannion, Josh Grizzard, Parks Frasier. And we talk about the constant change and the shifting. Now you have it with the run game where Chris Kuper and Ryan Mahaffey will be like teaming up to try to get that up to speed. Yeah, I mean, I 21 of 32 teams have new offensive coordinators. So the idea of continuity just doesn't exist in this era of the NFL. And we're going to find out pretty quickly. I mentioned those Jalen Hurts quotes in the shift from Brian Johnson to Kellen Moore yesterday about building a foundation, but then adapting to what you have. It's what everybody should be hoping for. And we're going to see. We're going to see what it looks like. I've been through it before. I think I know what it's going to look like, but until you see it, you never know. I think the offseason, the OTAs, the mini camps, and certainly training camp, you're going to hear a lot about the Shanahan-like concepts they're trying to bring to the offense, and we'll see how long it lasts.
Is there anything about the staff that you don't like, John?
But, I mean, there's nothing. They lost a lot of proven guys, and they have a lot of unproven guys.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's just the nature of the beast. I mean, it doesn't mean they can't do it. It just means there's no demonstrated history of doing it. Parks Frasier, for instance, he's never coached a room before in his entire career.
I don't understand that move. I really don't.
He's never coached a position before. And now you're tasking him. Now he used to play the position. Lower level, Murray State quarterback. But he was a quarterback.
I just don't are they doing the franchise quarterback? Are they doing him any favors with that hire? I mean, if I'm Jalen Hurts,
I don't know if he doesn't. I'm
Yeah, but if I'm Jalen Hurts and I'm in Cabo or Cancun, wherever the hell he is right now, in the off season, and I get a call from the Eagles, and we moved Parks Frasier to be your quarterback's coach, I'd be like, man, I'll talk to you when I get back. That doesn't excite me. That doesn't inspire me. That doesn't motivate me. That doesn't. Oh, good hire. He was our pass game coordinator last year. We sucked. Now he's the quarterback's coach. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking about it wrong. I just don't get that. That doesn't sound like a good hire to me.
Well, I get it from that perspective, but maybe he's better equipped to handle this job than he was that job. And some of that job, the pass game coordinators, in a lot of ways, I think, even though people think the pass game coordinator is more important, I think the quarterback's coach is more important.
I agree. So I mean, he didn't do great as a pass game coordinator. Now, whether that was his fault or not, I do agree with you.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He's like,
I don't know if it was all him, but
you're like on the Philadelphia Eagles. If you're the pass game coordinator, you're the fourth level. I'm not going to kill him for that. I don't kill Kevin Patullo for being second level.
I just, I don't know.
He's fourth level. What am I going to blame him for?
Yeah, let me move Parks Frasier. So you give him an upgrade, though?
Well, if they think he's a smart guy, and they obviously do, who understands the position, and he played the position, and maybe he's got an innate feel for the technique, because that's the biggest thing to me. The technique and fundamentals in the shift to more Shanahan-like under center drop back game, that's a lot of change for Jalen Hurts, and you got to have somebody who understands the footwork and things like that. Maybe he knows it. Maybe he understands it. Maybe that's his expertise. I don't know, but I will say, they had Scott Loeffler under contract. I mean, if Jalen Hurts wanted him back, I don't think there's any reason that they wouldn't have brought him back. So would Jalen
have made that known? Jalen to me strikes me as, I don't think he's going to go and be very demanding of the organization. Now maybe he is, I don't know, but that's just what I see. I think he's a leader. I think he knows he's the face of the organization, but I don't think he's going to overstep his bounds and go to Howie and say, or Nick and say, hey, let's keep this coach.
Well, I think it's, remember, they're there every day. They see the interactions. They see everything. What I'm saying, because I agree with you, like Jalen's not involved. Like you heard those questions about, is Jalen going to be in the interviews for offensive player?
Well, then you saw the Buffalo set the precedent.
Like, fuck no, that's not how they run things here. I don't care what Buffalo does, but the answer to that was fuck no. I'm sure they talk to him a little bit about things here and there. But when it comes to position coaches, if he would have said, you know what, we're doing a lot of good things, I really love it, or they saw that, I think that's the easiest path forward. Is, well, he loves the guy, that to me says, he wasn't in love with the situation last year, and maybe he's got a better relationship with Parks Frasier. That's what it says to me. But I mean, ultimately they'll be graded like everybody else is graded on results. But I'm not gonna kill Parks Frasier for the passing game last year.
I won't kill him for it, but my point was, is Jalen Hurts inspired at all by the additions to the coach? I mean, John, how many times last year?
Well, that's what I just said about Jalen. My bet and I have no inside information with this, so I want to make that clear. My bet is Jalen Hurts preferred Parks Frasier over Scott Leffler. That's my bet, because there's no reason to change directions if the other case was true.
Fair enough. Fair enough. How many times did you hear last year, John, that the Eagles are not good because their coaches are not good? That was kind of like the whole theme of the year. I mean, every time I went out, even when I was at like a family event for the holidays.
Well, what were all these good coaches doing against these dummies for the previous 4 years?
I agree with you.
Look, there's no.
It's tough. It's tough, John, because not everybody has the opportunity to talk to you every day. I do. I'm lucky enough to get to talk to you every day. So I have you telling me, what you believe, to be the truth. And then I have the external, the general public, the great people of JAKIB Nation chatting. I go to my family event and my cousin's like, our coordinator's a fucking idiot. I just talking, yapping about the coordinator. A lot of people last year, John, in Philadelphia.
Well, I mean, come on. You can't have a rational conversation with irrational people. Look, my only point, I'll often, depending on the day, people like to say, I don't think coaching matters, which is not the case. I think I'm pretty clear for the people that listen to the entire show or an entire conversation, instead of taking out one thing where I'll say, like, look, it's Jimmy's and Joe's over X's and O's. And I find it humorous, though, if you think about it. Talent over coaching. I mean, I'd rather have give me the good players,
right,
and I'll take my chances, and I'll hire hopefully good coaches. But give me the good players first, number one. Now, and that's the excuse they will use. The same people will say, well, the talent's so good, that's why these dummies won as high as they won. And Sean McVay can't beat Nick Sirianni and yada, 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 because the talent is so good. And then when they fail and win 5 games, and that's my shtick, because they act like they win 5 games, then it becomes, oh, the coaches are so stupid, they can't take advantage of the same talent that they took advantage of the previous 4 years or whatever. There's no logic. There's no rational discourse. This was a proven coaching staff with a high success, the highest success rate in the history of the modern Eagles, certainly. Highest success rate in the NFC over that time frame, only behind Kansas City and Buffalo in the AFC. Pretty high level for dummies. But, the expectations are what they are in this city, and partially because of that coaching staff, where a bunch of guys got run out of town. And some were here for the majority of the time, like Jason Michael and Jeff Stoutland. And some were only here for a year. Kevin was here for both, only a year as an offensive coordinator, but he was here the whole time as part of the staff. Yeah, I mean, it's just scapegoating. But the Eagles are not unique in that, when it comes to coaching. They like to think they're unique, but they go along with the crowd when it comes to coaching, like everything else. Well, we got to change. Well, why do you have to change? Well, we got to change. Well, why? Well, we got to change. It's
well, the offense wasn't graded very high, John.
Fair. But again, I think if you look at the players and how they perform versus their previous demonstrated performance, you have your answer.
Yeah, well, I don't disagree with that, but what should the organization do then? Because like you always say, it's easier to get rid of coaches than it is players.
Well, so yeah, but
my point underperforms to the level it did last year. What do you do if you're the organization? Like, what do you think they should have done it a different way?
Well, I would have been more patient, yes, because I've seen the history and I saw the way the players played. And I would have said, Landon Dickerson was banged up and playing through a bunch of shit, and nobody knows this better than them. Cam Jurgens was playing through a back that he had to go down to Medellin to get stem cell treatment for. Lane Johnson missed half the season. And then you had the downtick in play from Saquon Barkley because of that offensive line, mainly. You had the downtick in play from the quarterback in the second half of the season, mainly because of the offensive line play, mainly again. AJ with the frustration, all these things. Like, nobody knows that better than Howie Roseman and the coaches and the personnel staff. And, you could have made, like, there's no law against continuity. It's not an indictment. Like, you don't have to react because some blowhard's talking on WIP. You don't have to.
What about the entire tri-state area, John?
That's fine. It could be the entire tri-state area. They don't know what Cam Jurgens is going through. They don't know what Landon Dickerson is going through. You do. You know why the offense looked like it looked. You know. But, maybe the one fly in that ointment is you got to convince the top banana of that, who's closer to a WIP caller than somebody who understands what went on. So, yeah, there's my rip of Jeffrey Lurie. And that's the most difficult hurdle. And the natural inclination, and it's got nothing to do with Philadelphia, it's every city in this league, is to blow out the coaches because it's easier to blow out the coaches than the players. You can't replace Landon Dickerson. You just got to cross your fingers that the stem cells work for Cam Jurgens.
Which there's no guarantee of that, my friends. We'll see what ends up happening. Good stuff there. We got a couple super chats we'll get to. Then we got Brandon Lee Gouton in hour number 2 coming up here in about 7 minutes from now. We'll talk to BLG. Let's go to Sean Mims. What's up, Sean? Hurts will never stop rolling right and throwing the ball away. Step up in the pocket. You would like him to step up sometimes here and there, Sean, but that's part of his game, man. He's a playmaker and he makes a lot of plays outside that pocket. So it's just kind of one of the things I think you got to take the good with the bad and keep rolling with it. John, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, typically that's early in his career. That's what Todd Bowles did to him. That was and it was actually, you get him rolling left, then it's really the play's over if you can do that. But yeah, anytime you flush instead of climb the pocket for a traditional quarterback, that's very bad. You got to embrace the unique, man. Not a traditional quarterback. People are trying to turn him into a traditional quarterback. And I don't know if that's going to work. But you have the two extremes that think, you have the one extreme that loves him, that thinks he can do anything. And just if you say do it, he'll do it. And then you have the other extreme that doesn't recognize how good he is and how successful he is, and often in an unconventional way. And we're far enough into Jalen Hurts' career to understand what he is as a player. And what he isn't is a guy who can climb the pocket.
Is the Eagles organization trying to turn him into something he isn't?
Seems that way.
Or is it the Eagles coaching staff? Or are they?
Well, it definitely hasn't been the coaching staff to this point.
To this point,
it seems like they want to go in that direction.
But is that my question is more like, do you think that's coming from upstairs? Like,
oh yeah,
change the offense, or
yeah.
is this next effort, to try and make it better? I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I'm pretty sure it's coming from upstairs. Pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure too. I'm with you. I'm in agreement with you on that. But Sean, thanks for the super chat, brother. Appreciate it. Here is Corporate Pump. Jalen Hurts, the offense is going to look like what Jalen Hurts wants it to look like. Proceeds to have a dog shit season. No accountability in sight.
I don't think it was a dog shit season, but I think, the first half of the season was pretty good actually from just an individual perspective for Jalen Hurts. What if you're going to grade the quarterbacks since we're heading into the list season, where would he be? I'd put him 10, 11, 12, somewhere in that range. It's not like he's the 30th best quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, not even close.
And I've always said, upside, when he's having his good seasons, he's going to be on the cusp of top 5. And then, when he has his seasons like he had last year, he's going to be 10, 11, 12, somewhere in that range.
John, what I do think is a fair and relevant question about this, because I do think people go a little too far with it. I'm with you on that. But what I do think is a relevant question is, if Jalen's not going to be the same dynamic player from a sense of the running and the other stuff that he's added up to this point in his career, it's fair to wonder, or fair to at least ask, how good is that player still without that, in his toolbox? Without
I think that's the fairest point of all. I don't think he's going to be the same player if he doesn't. And again, I don't know who to blame for that, if that's Jalen himself, if that's the organization, if it's a combination of both. Personally, I think it's a combination of both. From the organizational perspective, I'm about maximizing the shelf life as long as I can maximize the shelf life, no matter how long that is. I'm not worried about keeping this guy till he's 40. That might sound harsh from the moral police, but he's a unique player. To me, he's got to use what he has to be that unique player, and that running game's a big part of it.
Yeah.
So if he's not going to, if it's just strictly him and says he doesn't want to do it anymore, and I don't believe that to be the case, number one, but if it's just strictly him, then you got to start thinking about turning the page, which is easier said than done, but you got to start thinking about the next chapter. Because what I don't think is going to happen is he's going to turn into the guy who's climbing the pocket and being patient and running a pure progression offense. I don't think that's going to happen. So I want to take advantage of the things that make Jalen Hurts great, what the Eagles have done for a long period of time. And if that's off the table, well, from an organizational perspective, they better get their heads out of their ass and get back on track. And if it's just the quarterback, well, then you got to start thinking in another direction, because, I mean, we got BLG coming up. I mean, I'll ask both of you guys. It's like, do you think he's going to be able to do that at this stage of his career, completely morph his game and turn into a traditional drop back passer?
No, heck no. No, and that's unfair to even expect or ask of somebody. I mean, that's not how life works. I mean, people don't just change who they are, at 27 years old because, Jeffrey Lurie asked for it or whoever's asking for it. All right, good stuff there. Appreciate everybody being here. Appreciate all the super chats. Don't forget to hit that like button today. Pretty good crowd in here. All right, February 18th edition. The Combine's on the horizon. All right, we will check in with Rick Saratella tomorrow. Today, we're going to check in with Brandon Lee Goutman.